Welcome, everybody, to my continued coverage of Convicting a Murderer. In 2015, Netflix looked at the case of Steven Avery in their docuseries Making a Murderer. They explored Avery and how corrupt law enforcement made him quite possibly innocent. The series became one of the streaming giant's biggest series. Fast forward to now, Candace Owens is on a mission to set the record straight in the DailyWire Plus series Convicting a Murderer, through 5 episodes, which are all available on the DailyWire Plus, as well as episode 6, which is what we're going to talk about today. Episode 6 description: startling details emerge about Colburn's suspicious license plate call and the key that was allegedly planted in Avery's bedroom. Additionally, the Making a Murderer filmmakers are called out for rearranging court testimony to better serve their narrative. Now, just a heads up, how I do these is basically I watch the episode and I kind of leave little notes of what I think throughout them happening. This is how it plays out. If I miss things, it's going to happen. But again, thank you guys for the continued conversation in the comments. It's been interesting to see different perspectives about what went down, and if people are watching Convicting a Murderer that actually watched Making a Murderer and kind of see where they're at and where their headspace is. And the thing about it is my goal of reviewing and recapping these shows is not to change your mind. It's just to share what I see and recap what I think. And then, of course, having the healthy conversation of whether or not we believe that Candace Owens is and the producing team are doing what they're set out to do, and that set the record straight on what really went down and whether or not if the producers left things out. So we kick off with Mr. Colburn talking about when he found out about making a murderer, and how he found out that it wouldn't paint everybody in this good light. They thought it would come out. And it's crazy to hear him talk about how they thought the series would come out and it would quickly kind of die down shortly after it came out, and they would go about their business, right? However, that's obviously we know was the complete opposite. During Christmas, he got a phone call from a random stranger saying just a bunch of nasty things, including telling him to sit on the couch with his family around and kill himself. Like, these people are insane. It's one thing to grasp the narrative of thinking that Making a Murderer was right and you think Steven Avery's innocent, but to call a man in front of his family to think that he did something and just leaving vile messages like that, it's truly disgusting. Like, people are absolutely crazy. We actually get a few voicemails played for us with just vile details towards these officers. Owens talked about the outrage that the docuseries calls was one of the biggest impact that any show had ever really had, which is very true. She also talked about how the hate came from the dispatch call made to run the license plate on Teresa's vehicle before it was found. When he was on the stand, people insinuated that Colburn would have called in the plate with the knowledge of where the car was prior to finding that, as a result of it not being able to be given the exact date at that time. And of course, the call was about what? I think it's like 18 months. 18 months when he was on the stand versus when 15 months. Sorry, 15 months when 15 months later is whenever he was at the trial and being questioned about it. And everybody thought that he was looking at the back of the vehicle at this time. Crazy, like absolutely positively crazy. And again, it's not, the thing about it is it's not about the fact that evidence hasn't been planted. It has been, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to me to think about. Candace Owens had the perfect quote in this. Let me see. I'm trying to find it. It's important to note that the trial took place more than a year after Colburn initially made the dispatch call, so it's totally understandable why he may not have been able to recall specific dates and times. Now, 100% agree with this, right? I love the fact that this Andy character comes in and out of the docuseries. I understand that he is very much Team Avery and is doubting what was done, but it's so funny to me to watch him kind of be widely convinced into what transpired. Owen said that the defense could have requested, this is the thing that I found fascinating, they could have requested the Manitowoc County to give them a timestamp on the phone call. However, the defense of the lawyers of Avery wisely didn't do that. They wanted to just put doubt in the juror's head instead of providing the actual fact, which is smart. However, later on here, a few years later, the call was verified to be on at 9:22 p.m. on November 3rd. So when they played the tape, it completely discredited the idea that he was staring at the vehicle like everybody said. Now, that to me is where the factual things come into place and you start to question right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't think that I'm in the place to sit here and tell you that I know for sure what happened. I just know that there's been things throughout this entire series that have been proven to be left out of the Netflix documentary, and we're uncertain why. Now, Netflix edited the way Colburn sat up in his chair, not once, not twice, but 3 times in the same question being asked. They used his reaction to the license plate to put even more doubt in Colburn's truth in what he said and people doubting what he did. Now, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on in this case. Okay, that's the first thing that you need to do. Let's throw out the Daily Wire. Let's throw out Netflix for a second. Let's look at just facts here. Why would the creators edit this stuff out of the thing? Why did they change the footage to show one thing when another thing happened? Well, it's simple. They were trying to spin a narrative to get more and more people talking. When I tell you that they treated this series of somebody, I have watched thousands of movies, thousands of TV shows. When I tell you, I believe that they treated this series more like a scripted show than a docuseries, I truly believe that. Because at the end of the day, when you are writing a television show that you want people to watch, you want people on the edge of their seats. You want people to understand the twists and turns, and then of course you want to twist them this way and then twist them that way. And if you're putting any reasonable doubt of what's being presented in front of you, you're doing your job. The producers did their job in making this something that it wasn't. You know what I mean? Sure, is there things that might look a little weird here and there? I'm not going to disagree with that. But the producers treated this like a scripted series versus a docu-series, and that's part of the issue here. Further, there are pieces of Teresa's electronics that were found in Steven Avery's burn barrel that weren't even brought up during Making a Murderer. He was burning things that night. She went missing, so let's dissect that. Why was that left out? Or how is it possible that it would have been planted in this scenario, right? Several people had questioned the producers of Making a Murderer about them leaving stuff out, and they said they didn't. They said they looked into things and they found that they weren't true. It's almost as if I want a Making of the Murderer season 3 for them to redo this, and like, this is our reaction to Convicting a Murderer. I don't even know. You know what I mean? At this point, I don't even know. But it's funny to me how this conversation kind of goes back and forth. But all right. The key was the vocal point of one of the episodes and how people believed it was planted. Each time that the officers went in to seize things at Steven Avery's house, the cops were focused on getting specific things. So it was claimed that they went in 7 times to go in and seize things, and they just kind of ransacked the place, right? They entered his house 7 different times. Now, I will say, the key thing, obviously, it looks suspicious. However, they kind of break it down. They said that one time they went in to seize the guns, another one the pornography, the other one the vacuum cleaner. And of course, they did a great job of putting a lot of things in doubt by saying they thoroughly searched the place 7 different times, when that's not really what happened. Again, the key thing is a little bit suspicious. However, the key thing kind of gets thrown for a loop when the lanyard, the other half of the key, was found inside the car of Teresa's. So if it was planted, why not grab both parts? Also, Avery's DNA was found on the key. Now, of course, they didn't find Teresa's DNA, but we see in testimony about the key situation and how someone points out that the last person that touched the key would have most of the DNA on the key. If there's any slither of evidence of the key being on Steven Avery, like he's touching it. Of course, we have the blood scenario. Steven Avery's blood was found in 6 different spots in patterns consistent with an active bleeder. The center console, the front passenger seat, CD case, rear passenger door, item on the dashboard by the ignition switch. Steven himself said that he had a huge cut on his right index finger that kept opening up all week. The blood patterns in the car are very similar to what was found in Steven's Grand Am car, which he also bled in. Obviously, in Making a Murderer, they planted the idea of Steven's blood was planted. Teresa's blood evidence was transported from somewhere else to burn rather than burn next to Steven's trailer. So the question is we have this in all over these places. Why would they plant the evidence of the blood? Like if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. Obviously, Andy and Ken are going back and forth. I still can't believe that this particular thing, the planting of blood, is even a conversation. That to me was wild. Like Andy's sitting here like, you didn't see him drip the blood, so you don't know. Come on, man. It's wild to think that people think that they would plant the blood in the car. Take Netflix, take Candace Owens, take the Daily Wire, take these producers completely out of the equation and use common sense. Like, this blows my mind that people are truly absurd to think that they would go to this magnitude to frame a man for what? For the lawsuit? The lawsuit? I'm confused. The blood vial is the final touches on this episode, where we know what will be the highlight of episode 7. Again, I understand everyone's thoughts, but I just simply ask you to watch the docuseries the same way that I'm watching the docuseries to form an opinion. Candace Owens, the producers, have done a great job of laying out the evidence to prove that Netflix left glaring holes in Making a Murderer. It's on the viewer, us, to find the middle. Another fantastic episode that keeps me wanting more. I cannot wait till next week. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Leave the comments. Let's talk about this. Let me know what I've said over this last, 10, 15 minutes, where you think I'm wrong, or what I missed, or what pieces aren't adding up to you. Let's have these healthy conversations in the comments, because I'm here for them. I'm here to learn. I'm here to understand. I'm presenting what I see, and I want you guys to tell me where I could potentially get it wrong. I will talk to you guys next week for episode 7.